Alright, go.
Hi, I'm Zyro Brown from the Community Scholars, and we're going to be talking about dyslexia and learning disabilities, and we're on campus. You can come to find help for it.
And my name is Van Alexander. I'm a learning disability specialist, and I work at the Accessibility Resource Center here at California State University, Chico.
Try real.
My first question would be for anyone who thinks they might have dyslexia, or if they have dyslexia, what's the first steps to getting help in the college environment?
Yeah, it's very likely that people will know that they have problems with respect to the reading tasks and that kind of stuff. So very often they've been identified early on, and the reason they got here was they've been using services to assist with making the functional requirements met so they can qualify to come here. So very likely a student will have been identified very early in their educational program. They've been receiving services, and then when they get here, we just continue that. We want to make sure they succeed and get on with getting graduated and have a successful life. So our job would be giving those kind of services that would allow them access and opportunity that they can make it here. And I guess if you look at other functional limitations such as blind people needing braille or alternative to print, the university would provide that, or a deaf person needing an American Sign Language interpreter, we would provide that. And so it's a similar process with other functional limitations. It's really a question of, well, what are their limits? And they would probably provide us some documentation that would establish that which is causing their limitation. And then the next question is, well, what are the functional requirements? What are they obligated to do? And it's not always about reading print. Sometimes it's some other issue that oftentimes students says, I can do it, I just can't do it with the clock ticking, or people packing their books and leaving, or the environment doesn't allow me to do what I need to do the way I need to do it. And I guess the intent is, well, yeah, if you have to work longer and harder to make this thing happen, let's give you the chance. Let's allow that. Let's allow you to progress the way you do under using the resources that you need to make that happen. And so it oftentimes is the student knows exactly what they need. They'll just tell the faculty, here's what's going on, and the instructor either can assist there, or they would have us involved. Like if they don't know, if they have a deaf student in the classroom and they don't know American Sign Language and they can't get all the captioning and everything working, then we would do it. We would just bring in those services that would help. So people with dyslexia, it's a similar thing. Sometimes things are flashing up on PowerPoint, and it's beyond, it's difficult for them to shift mental operations between capturing that information, process, and doing all the things they need to do in real time. And then they might just ask us to help them capture the information in notes, or make it available to them outside the classroom so they can digest, where they can process the information. So that's what we do. I mean, our job is just make sure that we don't deny people access and opportunity. And you see it all over campus where there's blue designated parking spaces that some people might say, well, that encroaches upon the green space, or maybe an architect might not like the way the ramps are going up into the BMU or something. It's like, well, you kind of have to. It's a requirement that we comply with the mandate to make this place accessible and give opportunity. And so some of it's physical barriers, some are other kinds, and we just give those services that will allow the person to participate. They should have full enjoyment of the camp. I think the way the policies are written is to have full enjoyment of the campus. So I like to think everybody's happy and all that. Don't always know if that's the case, but we're at least working toward making sure they can access information.
I have one more question.
Okay.
Why do you think it's less likely for a student to try to get help in college if they have dyslexia as opposed to it would be in high school?
Well, I think it's the individual. I mean, we can talk about populations. I mean, we're going to get right down to the individual. And your age group, I think there's a adolescent, post-adolescent psychological profile, not typically, but oftentimes, where young people want to look cool, or it's not just academics. They're here for some kind of a social issue too, and they don't want to be identified as having anything that makes them unattractive or that makes it so they are embarrassed in front of their peers or that kind of thing. When you get to be my age, excuse me, less so. But I think I can get back. I remember being in an adolescent, post-adolescent place, and that is important. I mean, it is, it's kind of essential task of life is to kind of engage with people and that, and some of those things, if you feel or you're suspicious that it might make you seem unattractive or disordered, or whatever the clinical terms would be, I'd say, well, then some people might not want to identify themselves because of their fear. That's another barrier. I mean, it's not just physical barriers. Sometimes it's attitudinal barriers that people are just don't want that stigma, or they don't want to be put in that protected class because they just remember that special bus coming to pick up the special kids, and they didn't want to get on that special bus, kind of a thing. And people know. I mean, in a social setting, even if they, like for reading disorders, way back in the day, they would have special reading groups, like the Bluebird group or whatever. It didn't matter what the labeling was. Kids knew. Your peers know if you're having issues or you're needing special attention. You ask any of them, they'll say, "Yeah, that's the strong kid in the class. There's the fast kid in the class. There's the slow kid." They kind of know each other and they know what the situations are. Amazingly, though, they're not that unaccepting of each other. I don't think kids in full inclusion programs are that mean-spirited about people that are different than them. So that in your age group, probably you guys did have people with autism in the classroom with you. In my age group, it didn't happen. They were set off to special schools. We never really saw them. They went to some magnet school somewhere, and they weren't really included in the program. But I'm thinking now it's more the norm that kids do get services. They do learn acceptance. They do learn how to engage with the diversity of populations that they're going to be coming upon. So it's probably not as big of a deal. But yeah, I guess to answer the question, it's like we will serve those students when they ask for it, but we don't impose it upon them. We don't push a student aside and talk to a faculty about them behind their back, or put our value system in place of theirs, or override their judgment with what we think would be the right thing to do. It's a civil rights issue, so it really comes down to the student laying claim that they have the limitation, and then saying, the reason they're doing that is so that they can get the services that will give them a chance to make it here, to make this place work. And so, if you just look at it from the individual standpoint, it's either, I guess if they're not going to make it here without the service, that kind of plays their hand for them. It's sort of like that's what they need to make it work. Without that, it's not going to happen. And so, in some settings, that's kind of the calculus of it. But, I would like it to be, the faculty are totally accepting of all the diversity of all the issues of all the students. But I'm thinking, yikes, that's asking a lot of them. That's asking, there's 1,000 faculty and the students are so diverse. I'm thinking, there's a lot of issues. And the other thing is, we have students coming here from other countries, and they do work on their language to get, but it's not their first language. It's not their dominant language. So you have students from Japan that might be in a classroom with you, and they might not be catching all the idioms, or when they're doing their writing proficiency. That might be a lot of work for them to get up to that collegiate level of expression, or just a cultural thing of asking for help, or not knowing, everything, but not wanting to look like you don't know, like not wanting to look ignorant. So I'm thinking, that's limit. That's not a disability, but it acts almost the same. It's almost equivalent. So there are students from other countries that will come here wanting the extra time on the tests, or wanting to help help somebody read the text to them or do the other things, but they're truly not disabled people. As a matter of fact, it could very well be that they're functioning well beyond the norms for the population because they're speaking two languages and they're operating in two cultures and they're working at a pretty high level of functioning. So those are issues that become problematic too. It's like, well, how do you, if you invite those students here, you encourage them to participate, you want to have good international relations, how's that being played out on the campus? And so I'm thinking, well, I see it similar to dyslexia or similar to a learning disability in that it's a cultural difference. So it's not a disability, but it still needs those services. And so I kind of think that's, if it is possible for the campus to have a universal design to say, well, I'm putting all my information out there on the internet, it's all available. So if you need study guides or access to lecture notes, it's already there. You don't have to come and ask for it. It would help a lot of students with or without disabilities. And the same thing is, if they needed more time to finish something, if that could be arranged without them having to ask for it, just say, I want a true measure of your knowledge and skills. I don't want to measure a bad test environment. Let's make this work for as many people as we can. If they have it, if they have the resource, that would be nice. They would do it without the student even needing to make the request of them. But real world, they probably don't. They probably don't have unlimited time to evaluate students for academic stuff, and they just don't have places to put them all. If the students needed extra time, they got classes coming or places. We're kind of regulated on a clock, and somebody has to work outside that clock. It's very difficult to reconfigure. Do you have any other questions? I just start going on and on and on with my philosophy.
The last one would be where is this office located, and the number to contact office, and and your name and what you specialize in again.
Yeah, my name is Van Alexander. I'm a learning disability specialist. We're in the Accessibility Resource Center, which is on the first floor in room or suite, I guess. We're in suite 170 is the number in Student Service Center. And to get us, we're pretty much Monday through Friday 8 to 5 kind of situation, but we can work on emails and other things. The number to call is area code 530-898-5959. You can go to our website, and I think now our website is accessible from Chico State's homepage, so it's just like one click and you're right there to our website. So they've made that pretty easy. But yeah, there's 3 advisors, and we cover a lot of functional limitations, but we work for the whole campus. It's not just student services. We're covering all the functional limitations, all the accommodations for the whole university. So even if your grandma's coming to visit and you need accessibility help or something, we'll help them. So it's not limited to just those students who came in here and documented their freshman year. We'll work with students at any point. And people can become functionally limited after they get here too. Yeah, I made it sound as though they know early on if they have limitations. No, there are people that have head injuries and it comes late, or they have multiple concussions or